Hi, my name's Tammy Martinez. I'm an LPC, licensed professional counselor. And I work for Start Corporation. And I love Start. They are an amazing company. You know, you might have just heard me fussing. That's just colleague talk. That's what we do. All we ever do is fuss about paperwork. Anytime we got to help somebody out, you know, if you're going to spend 10 minutes helping somebody out, you got to have that much paperwork. It's the only way. So, but I'd like to tell you first, I'm going to talk about harm reduction. And I'd like to just put that in your mind for a minute. Harm reduction is anything that you do to prevent from being hurt. Harm reduction is a seatbelt. Harm reduction is not going to New Orleans to hang out at night. Okay? Harm reduction is making sure that if you're going on a trip, you bring your weapon. You know what I mean? You're going to be on traveling a long time. Harm reduction is locking your door. Would you go home and go to sleep and leave all your doors open? Maybe it was 1951, but you know, harm reduction just means reducing harm. That's all it means. And the drugs that we used to have, let me just say this because I want this in your mind and then I'll come back to it. But the drugs that we used to have back in the day when I was using, you know, we would get Boone's Farm, steal our parents' cigarettes and, you know, and hide and do all this stuff. Not that that was right, and maybe smoke some of our parents' weed or with our friends or whatever. And we started off in one place and we graduated. I remember times, you know, the crackheads over here, they thought, oh man, we not like them, they the junkies over there. Well, now it's not like that. It's not like that anymore. I mean, it's a joke to look back on because you did do you had some graduating power and a place to stop and never get to that place. But our kids today are starting off with opiates at 15, 16 years old. They're addicted after the first prescription, the first 30 drugs, pills. After the first 60, they're up to twice as much. After 90, they're up to 3 times as much, until they're taking too many pills to be able to afford it, and they're buying fentanyl, straight up. And they're shooting up before they're 18 years old. Where are you gonna go? So the whole, you're gonna do this the way that I tell you you're gonna do this, and this is what you're gonna do, because if you don't, I'm not gonna give you nothing. Well, they already feel like nothing, so if you don't give them nothing, you're not really doing, they don't care. That's not a disservice to them. They don't care. So you gotta figure out a way to keep people alive until they can wrap their mind around wanting to be alive. And yelling and fussing and all of the things that people used to do, it's not working. People are dying in droves. We're losing more people to addiction than we are to car accidents now in America. It's always been car accidents. I'm 56 years old. Since I can remember, the highest loss of life in our country was car wrecks. By like 37% when you're going down. Addiction is 52% of the deaths in our country. They're all preventable. So harm reduction is reducing harm, hoping for prevention of death, in order to love people back to where they are, okay, where they were. Some people, if you're like me, people said recover. That word used to make me mad, because I'm like, please don't nothing, okay? I don't want to I don't have nothing to Please help me build. I don't want anything that I had yesterday. I was born into a mess. I lived a mess. I lived a crazy life. My parents were on drugs. They were selling drugs. They were crazy. They were running guns. They were doing all kind of stuff and trying to live in a world and act like they were kind of bougie or whatever, until things got kind of bad. And every time there was some kind of problem, I was the way that they got out of it. Either they were going to come home and take it out on me, or it got to where they busted up a whole bunch of drugs and they decided that you know, I was going to help them make the money back that they needed to pay the dope man so that they didn't get murdered. So by becoming a human trafficked child at the age of 7 years old, that is where my parents made the money back, but realized how much money they were making and never gave the money back to the dope man. They just kept using me for that. In and out of fighting about that, in and out of stuff like that. I ended up leaving at 13 years old. I beat my mother just short of her life. My dad had already left. And I didn't talk to her again until I was in my 20s. I don't talk to her today. She's never really changed, never really done anything. And it's okay. I've accepted apologies that I didn't have. I've learned a long time ago that life, you're never gonna be comfortable in your calling. Every hero has a story from zero, okay? And I'm the hero of my life. I parented the inner child inside of me, that little girl inside of me. She is a happy, beautiful, loved, chosen child. And I'm her hero every day, okay? I don't need anybody to come save me. Jesus did that already, okay? And through that, all I ever did was get yelled at. You go to that damn treatment center, you go to that treatment center, and we'll love you. If you go over here and do that, not that we hurt you, but if you go over there and you do that, we'll love you. If you stop doing those drugs, we'll let you come live in here. Well, all I ever did was stop doing drugs so that I could gain what I could get the prize. You know what I mean? You buy the Cracker Jacks to get the prize, right? Who ate them? They were gross. Make your teeth stick together. Oh, I can't even chew it. We wanted the prize. A terrible a tattoo thing you put on there, but we bought some Cracker Jacks. I threw them away. I wanted the prize. So I was taught that if my mama told me to do something and she was going to give me something, that was the prize. Well, that's not harm reduction, because what happened was when I left, I still didn't have any skills. When things got rough, I kept using, I kept doing things, I kept not knowing anything. I was really, really smart, but I didn't know how to use my smarts. And so I got really, really frustrated all the time, and I didn't know that that's what that was, and so I was angry. And I was mad that nobody taught me anything. Well, instead of somebody teaching me something, somebody gave me something, hey, this will make you feel better. Hell yeah. Made me feel really better, you know? Really made me feel better. And so went on to just off the races, right? And so in the midst of all of that, I didn't know what to do. I went to 6 treatment centers. I kept relapsing. I didn't know how to do it. When I got out, nobody gave me what they told me they were going to give me. So the expectation of me going in so I could get out and get the prize, I never did get that. I got better when God sent the village to love me. And to this day, whenever I'm hurting really, really bad, like hurting on the ground. The other day, Deacon Louie and I, we've been, you know, in little circles here and there, and I've come in here, whatever, but we started talking. I don't even remember how it all happened. I think I came in here or something, and he was like, you know, he just calls me out of the blue and says, God told me to call you. That's God sending the village. You know, it's hurting. I just busted out crying. I thought his wife might be mad at me because he meant me to have dinner for me just to yell and throw up all over him, everything that happened. And then he came back at me like dad, and I respected that because he listened to me. Nobody usually does that. And that's how I've lived my life and how I've gotten to where I've gotten to. I was in the food and beverage industry in the French Quarter. Lived there until my son was born, so I was 28. Then I sold cars until I was about almost 40. And I'm here to tell you those first 40 years of childhood was really rough. Whew. Glad I'm not there anymore. And I didn't know what I was supposed to do, but I went to Home of Grace. And I guess I was 37. Went to Home of Grace, and I spent 3 months studying the Bible and loving Jesus. They never said one thing about drugs to me. They never said anything about drugs to me. Never said it was going to give me no prize. Never said anything. They just loved me. The church ladies came and bring muffins. On Sundays we went to church, and then we had cake and ice cream. was like, I know my family didn't do this, okay? It was some foreign thing to me that you go and love Jesus and come home and eat cake. I was like, look, I still call J-Mac sometimes. Girl, I could come back. I know you got to have a bed. I'll take 90 days of Jesus and forget the world and no telephones and no nothing and just go to a different church every Sunday and have different people love on you because they want to. Man, I'm signing up. I'm going to be the first one signed up on that. So anyway, in doing all of that, love got me where I am. And harm reduction is love, okay? So it says the harm reduction approach aims to reduce the negative consequences of using psychoactive substances without necessarily reducing the substance use itself. So everything that we know about the way getting clean and all that stuff used to be, it was what they told us. You know, I thought I went to, you go to the doctor, you think you're better, right? I went to the doctor for 30 days, I come back, I might be better, right? No. All that was a sabbatical for me to gain some strength again and go back there and tear it up. I didn't know that back at the time, but that's what treatment centers are. That's why they don't work. They do give you a sabbatical, and if you can start off with some harm reduction, you learn some different ways through it. I think that if I would have had harm reduction, if someone would have sat down and listened to why I used and then helped me reduce it without treating it like I'm some criminal or bad or whatever. For me, I did drugs because, y'all knew. I didn't have, what choice was I going to have? I was given drugs when I was 7. So I was going to do drugs, you know what I mean? I didn't have choice. Now I hate drugs. I hadn't done drugs in over almost 20 years. And I don't even like drugs, I do live my life like a normal person. I go out, I have fun with my friends. I don't live my life just pushed into recovery, because I don't think personally that I would have ever done the things that happened in my life had I had a different opportunity. Because the person that I am today, I'm like the vigilant popo. I'm calling the police on you, I'm throwing you down, you going to jail. I will help you, I will give you something to eat, I will put you up in a hotel, I will do that, but you're not gonna have drugs. You're not gonna have them around me. Because that's not going to be conducive to helping somebody else or going to give them to somebody else. I'm not going to give you an opportunity to kill somebody else. If you want to kill yourself, okay, that's on you. But I'm not going to let you do that to someone else. If I know you got it, you're going down. But I'm not going to do it in a harmful way, the way that I used to think that we just, the way that was angry and I wanted to take everybody down who's doing drugs because I hated drugs. I still hate drugs. People, I don't. Sometimes I'm here to tell you. I'm like, what do you want me to do? But I'm here to tell you that I love humanity. I love loving people. God made me that way. I wouldn't have gotten to know that if he wouldn't have sent people to love me, I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have had any idea. Because I used to cuss at him and tell him he was being a buzzkiller to leave me alone. We wasn't friends. He didn't save me, so I was pretty upset about that. None of that's harm reduction, and all the while I just thought if I didn't go to the doctor, I was going to be sick. So, once I went and I got enough love for 90 days, like enough love, and I started going forward, God just started sending people in my life, and I started moving further and further away. Not any of it was ever telling me, what are you? Something's wrong with you. You're doing those drugs. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And so none of that ever got me to a place that just made me feel worse about myself. People that are on drugs feel terrible about themselves. And policies, programs, and practices for harm reduction approach accept that abstinence may not be a realistic goal for a person. It just may not be that. And let me tell you something. If you're in here, or you know someone and you're in here because you want to help someone that's on drugs, let me help you right now. If you don't get anything out of this, please take this. Control does not equal security or safety. It just does not. It pushes. God calls long suffering waiting in the Bible, because he wants you to wait, and he wants suffering to wait. The only person that pushes you over the edge and pushes and pushes and pushes is Satan. That's how come you know when you have two things and they look exactly the same, and one is moving slowly and in a comfortable place, and the other one is pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, leave that one alone. Okay? Because God doesn't push us, God loves us. He is love, and there is nothing that pushes about his love. His love is patient. And humans have rights, okay? We have to respect the person's rights to receive care and services. We have to make choices in our own lives. We have to suspend moral judgment and focus instead on the person's right to human dignity. They already feel bad. We don't need to help them feel any worse. We need to provide services for them. You know, in the Portugal model and in Canada, and this is really going to blow y'all out. I'm not going to go off on a tangent because I promise Big Deacon Lloyd will make his hair fall out. But in Portugal, they have places that you can go, and they have nurses and doctors for addiction, and you can go in there and show them what drugs you have, and they give you a room to sit in with an RN, and you can get loaded. Because if you're going to get loaded, you're going to get loaded. There is nothing that's going to stop you. And guess what those RNs are as well? They're counselors. They sit with them. They hold them. Once they're not like this anymore, they hold them. They talk to them. They get rapport with them. And at some point in time, they're coming back and they're getting in treatment and they're getting saved. You know? In life with God, look, anything that saves a life and brings them to a place of light shouldn't matter in our moral ground if we're saving a life. If we need to come around later on and say, hey, our belief system doesn't say this, or hey, you know, God's word doesn't say this, this is not what it says, or hey, this is not what we need to do. A lot of times our opinions get in the way of our ability to help someone, and that's not harm reduction. That's our fears, our knowing more than we can watch someone and they're killing themselves. It's very difficult to go, okay, well, if you want to kill yourself, it's fine. But that's the gist of how it goes. But what it means is, I love you anyway. I hope that you are here with me to build. Person's drug use is secondary to the associated of use. Priority to decrease the negative effects of drug use rather than decreasing the drugs itself. Like when I have clients and they come tell me, and I know that they won't get on MAT, they'll tell me all about how MAT is bad for medically assisted treatment. They'll tell me how bad, oh, MAT's terrible, you can't do this, oh, it's gonna cause cancer. I'm like, you're shooting up heroin and you're worrying about MAT causing you cancer. Please help me understand that. And I'll laugh at them, you know, and just whatever. And they're like, all right, Miss Tammy, I get it, you know, because they have to find some reasons to deflect and to go around and whatever. But I'm like, okay, well, how many days are you using? Okay, well, I'm using 7 days a week. I'm like, okay, well, can we just, right now, can we reduce it to 5? Okay, how much are you using? Okay, so you're reducing it to 5. Okay, so I'm using a gram a day. Okay, can we go down to a half a gram a day? Okay, you're gonna come back and see me in 7 days, right? Here's 7 strips. Promise me every time you get high, you're gonna use the strips. Why? Because it tests for fentanyl. Now, are they gonna use it anyway when they're on drugs? Yes. But did I do something to give them the right to make some choices? Yes. They're gonna trust me because I gave them right to make some choices. I didn't do this. Nobody ever told me what to do and I did it. If you loved me around the way, I did it. Ask him. You know, I'm still that way. That part didn't go away. You know, I'm still very stubborn, and I don't know why. It makes my life harder. Why haven't I stopped? I don't know. Maybe it's the thorn in my side, like Paul talks about. So I always know I need God with my self-righteous, non-humble self. Sometimes, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Because I could hear myself being that way and go, yeah, all right. You know, and I'll stop. So I don't know why we have all of the things that we do. Okay, priority of immediate goals. Harm reduction focuses on meeting the purpose where meeting focus on meeting the person where they are and their immediate needs and care of services. So we have start at my job. We do same day services. We have primary care, behavioral health, substance use treatment, Medicaid enrollment, WIC, HIV treatment. We give treatment for Hep C, which is a cure of it. We do Gene Sight. Gene Sight is coming in and going to primary care. They take your blood. If they tell you you have anxiety and you have depression, they tell you this drug is the drugs that are going to work for you. Instead of trying all the drugs and going in and out of figuring out what's going to happen, you end up feeling worse. These are the ones that are going to work for you. These are the ones we're going to prescribe for you. And they get you in detox or on Suboxone that day if they have to get the strips from Walgreens themselves. The behavioral health is going to do that. And then they're trying to put you on the Sublocade. And the Sublocade has a blocker in it. You take the shot once a month. You don't want to do drugs. It makes you not want to do it. So there are lots of things that we can do to help our ideas of where these things are going and how harm reduction works. There is no prize. You don't, yes, if you have a hero story because you feel like you're at zero. If you're at zero and you tell them, man, if you go be a hero, man, I'm gonna give you all these things. Well, if they knew how to get those things, or they knew how to live, or they weren't in such a terrible mess, they don't know how they got there. Nobody wakes up and says, when I grow up, I want to be a drug addict. You know, I didn't. And so when you start learning how to do things, you can start feeling a little bit better about yourself, and you start in small increments. And when you have so many services in one place, you can do primary care, behavioral health, counseling once a week. You know, we're going to give you the test strips. We're going to give you Narcan. We have a group that you can come and talk to the people that are like you. It's not an AA group. It's just a group that gets to come in and say, okay, this is the thing that's bothering us the most. Everybody puts it in the jar. We pull out something. They put it in. We talk about that. I'll let them talk about it. I just sit back and let them talk about it to each other and see how they're doing. I'm like, I don't know, Miss Tammy, you tell us. Do you see what I mean? And it's like them talking to each other about what's going on with them, instead of going somewhere that they have to identify in their sin, or they have to identify in any other way just by saying, hey, I'm struggling, help me. And our mental health care provider, if you get the shot, she's okay with not coming to the group. But if you get the Suboxone strips, you have to come to the group once a week, because we have to count your strips. We're going to keep you accountable to staying alive. We'll help you stay alive, but we're keeping you accountable. Anytime you're in a clinic, you got to have your strips. I got to count them. You get 30 of them in a day. If you come in on day 20, you better have 10 left. If not, you're going to detox. And they don't like being locked up. So, you see what I'm saying? So, but these are people that have been led through harm reduction to, we do housing. You know, Hannah's going to come up in a minute and tell you about housing. We do housing. Housing is, there's a lot of different ways that you can get into housing, and a lot of different ways that you apply for it. But we have transitional housing. We have 64 transitional homes in St. Tammany and Tangipahoa Parish. This is just on this side. Hannah can probably tell you how many they have on the other side if she even knows. But that's what she works in, his house, so she'll tell you all that. But there are a lot of places now that you can come straight out of a treatment center and somebody doesn't have to come live in your home. They can live in transitional. Now, they probably gonna whine. They're gonna wanna come home. But you just give them some cheese to go with their wine and tell them you're gonna come visit them, and you give them some nice Fruit of the Looms and, you know, maybe some snacks or whatever they're doing. And then they're gonna sign them up for food stamps. They're gonna make them get a job. They're gonna make them do everything. They're gonna be able to get their money. They're gonna get rides to behavioral health. They're gonna get IOP. They're gonna get counseling. They're gonna have groups. They're gonna have all this stuff all the time. And they're gonna have ways where we've worked out with different people in St. Tammany Parish that hire our people that have had 30 days of sobriety or on their way getting housing, okay? So there's help out there now. But it's not through the force of what other people's opinions are. Everything that I'm explaining to you is backed by the highest data. Trust me, I know I ask these people these questions all day long just to help them. But it's backed by data. This is what's working. This is what's working internationally, not just in our country. Our country is the only country in the entire globe that has so much death. through addiction. And it's because our addiction is criminal. So you pull somebody off the streets, you go throw them in jail. If they don't know how to detox, they're probably, if they're on drugs, too bad, they're gonna die. They're gonna die in their cell because they're gonna have a heart attack. They're gonna go into shakes, they're gonna go into DTs, and they're gonna die. Opiates and alcohol will kill you faster than anything. Or they're not trained and they're going to, if they try to detox them with benzos and they give them that, and if they have enough alcohol or enough opiates in their system and you give them a benzo, their heart stops when they go to sleep. As soon as they fall into REM, their brain tells their heart to stop and they're dead. So you have to have trained individuals that know what they're doing, that do the training, that are not, I am not biased. I don't care who you are, because addiction, I have seen it take down politicians. I've seen it take down teachers. I've seen it take down kids. I've seen it take down moms who just thought that Vicodin man was gonna, that's how mommy medicine, man, she's just gonna whip it up. She's gonna go faster and do things quicker and get it all done. And the next thing you know, she's in the bathroom shooting up fentanyl, because it doesn't take long before it takes you down that path. You can go from taking your first Vicodin at 15 because you got in a football accident to straight up shooting up at a year and a half later. And that is just where it goes. That is just what happens. So please know that no is a good word. It's a complete sentence. No is important. Know that you have to have boundaries. Know that if you are on drugs, then there's help. If you know someone who is, if someone is hurting, if someone is that you know is hurting in your life and they're hurting you, learn the ability to have the stomach to use the properties of harm reduction within what you can deal with, to that ability, so that you're helping save that life, get to that place. Because I promise you, when no one cares what you know until they know that you care. That's not me, that's Teddy Roosevelt, okay? I'm not that smart. But you gotta show people that you care before they're willing to do that. Y'all, I promise y'all, I have laid on a nasty floor at work, laying there just letting somebody tell me what's hurting with them. And they're like, Miss Tammy, you listen to me. What you want me to do? I'm like, I want you to go to detox. And that's all I want you to do. It's gonna be 4 days. I want you to go to detox. And I want you to come sit back in my office. And then I want you to tell me what's your best hopes for your life tomorrow. And I'm gonna give you the knowledge that I have through harm reduction to help you get better. I tell you what, I know a lot of people, and I'm not anything more than what God is having me do right now, honestly and truthfully. What I went through to get here is crazy. But I can tell you this right now, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, I know this, that I know that I know this. I have helped 137 people get clean, personally, myself, 137 people. 126 of them are still clean, and none of them have died. I've lost, in that same amount of time, 39 patients, all under the age of 30, overdose. Out of those 39, 16 were under the age of 25. So we got to do something different. The babies are dying. It's everybody. And harm reduction is, the way to do it. Hannah's gonna come up here, and then after Hannah has something to say, I'd like to tell y'all after she finishes, I'd like to tell y'all what START has, because there is so much. We have rides to get you where you need to go, but I'd like to just mouth off the services that we have. So if you need any services, or or somebody calls you and says, man, I need such and such, and you can say, hey, I know where to do it, because we're even getting more and more data. And the more data we have, the more screenings we're gonna have, the more services we're gonna have. And we are all over the state of Louisiana. Right now, we don't even have offices above Opelousas, but we will bring an ACT team to Shreveport if we need to. We will go get somebody in our van and bring them back here to detox them if it's necessary. We'll bring their family here too. I mean, we are doing some things there that blow my mind. Sometimes it's a pain in the rear how we do it, but really blows my mind at how we're doing it. I'm so proud to be there. I'm so proud to have this in St. Tammany and Tangipahoa Parish in New Orleans. I really am. It's unbelievable. Thibodeau, Homa. I mean, it's all over the state of Louisiana right now, and START is a national company, and it is growing, and it is the one thing in the community. The insurance like it, you're not inpatient. $3,000 a day. You know what I mean? It's not costing $3,000 a month to do harm reduction and to keep you off the streets, to help you find housing, and to get you the supplements, the food, the clothing, the housing that you need. Now you got to do the work. I mean, we just don't come get you and ride you up to your house. You know, you gotta do the work. But if you do the work, it's worth it. And now I want Hannah, if you give me just a minute, I want Hannah to come. She's gonna come explain how harm reduction and housing works, because people get really confused. Housing's not a prize, okay? Hannah.
Hi y'all, I'm Hannah. Thanks for letting me talk tonight. I can't put my coffee on this. There's a slow.
I think I put mine under you too, Hannah. I don't know if I did.
Oh yeah, there is a little bit right here.
Picture inside.
So my name's Hannah, also Martinez, unrelated. I work for the Low Barrier Shelter in New Orleans. So Low Barrier is, we're actually the only place in the region that does case management for low barrier clients. So we have case management, meaning that we do housing. First of all, we start with like a job. We start with birth certificate. We start with driver's license. We go to jobs. We go to housing. We make resumes. We do all this stuff for the people. A low barrier shelter means that you have to be over the age of 18, but you do not even have to have an ID. You show up to the shelter, you say you need immediate assistance, and you get into the shelter. You could bring your pets, you can bring your partners, you could bring your stuff, which, you know, there are places in New Orleans that you can't bring your dog, you can't go to shelter, you live on the street, period. Harm reduction helps connect clients to vital resources. So we are a harm reductive shelter. Low barrier is associated with harm reduction. So we allow drug use in the shelter. You can be a drug user. And as a person in recovery, I'm in recovery for fentanyl and alcohol. And when I got in recovery, I was using a lot. I was alone. I was had lost my house. I was homeless. I was losing my car. I was sleeping in my car with my crack dealer. And I started doing, I have actually harm reduction tattooed on my body because 10 years ago I started working in it, and I was like, this is where it's at. I drank all the way through it, and I used drugs, heroin all the way through it. But a couple of years ago, I went and I joined a coalition for harm reduction, which is called Tri-Stereo in New Orleans. We do also fentanyl test strips and Narcan distribution. And I would go to the park and I would hand out clean needles, and something about seeing people care for themselves and standing on the other side of that table, I was like, I should try to care about myself. These people out here are homeless, they are sleeping outside, it is hot or cold, and these people are showing up and going, you know, I'm an IV user, but I'm using a clean needle. And that may be the first that somebody has cared about themselves in 20 years, is just going like, I'm gonna test my fentanyl, or I'm gonna test for fentanyl. That may be the first thing that a person has done for themselves in 20 years. And so I went to, when I started my job, my HR person said, the other people in the room were like going to work at the clinics and like all this stuff. And she was like, oh, you're LBS, you're low barrier. And she was like, I'm gonna give you one piece of advice. Love these people until they love themselves. And I was like, all right, girl, I can do that. I can do that. So let's see, Gateway to Support Services, I talked about that. I have a little quote to read because Tammy reminded me of this, and I really love this quote. Shaming someone into action, oh, I lost it. Okay, let me get back to it. I really want to read y'all this quote because it's really beautiful. Okay. Shaming someone into action creates acting. Inspiring someone into action creates change. So if a person comes up to me, I'm a case manager, and a person comes up to me and goes like, I'm not telling you anything, we're not talking, I'm a drug user, but like, I'm not telling you anything about myself. No, I don't have an ID. No, I don't have a birth certificate. I'm like, all right, go get a birth certificate. Talk to me in a week. Like, we can build trust. It's gonna be okay. I'm not gonna like, understandably, they have been failed by every system that they've been a part of. So when they get to me, they're like, who is this girl? You are not gonna tell me anything I don't already know. And I just try to start with like the first thing. What do you need to get a job? You need these things, let's get there. And slowly, we got a guy yesterday who got a job on a cruise boat. He's living at the shelter. He's now making $22 an hour. He is so happy. His whole thing has changed. He switches up in the morning. Hey everybody, good morning. And we're like, good morning, businessman. Like, you are just hot now that you have your little job. So I want to talk about language a little bit, and then I'll go. I am a part of AA and NA where we say, hi, my name is Hannah, I'm an addict and alcoholic. And I love the groups, don't get me wrong, I love the groups. They've gotten me through a lot. But, hi, I'm Hannah, I'm an addict, just sometimes doesn't sit right with me. It feels like it's reducing me to like, I'm an addict. And in this field, we say substance use disorder. We say opiate use disorder. We say alcohol use disorder. And I think the kind of point I want to drive tonight is that we may not be homeless fentanyl users. We may not be crack users actively, but what we can do is we can change our language to be harm reductive. So we can say, instead of that person is an addict or that person isn't clean, we can say that person has substance use disorder. That people that are homeless are the most vulnerable populations, period. They're human trafficked, they're LGBTQ, they're people of color. These people already have enough going against them. We have to change the language that we use. We have to say reentry, a person who's been to prison. You were, instead of saying sex offender murderer, you're going into reentry. You're formerly incarcerated. There are words that we can use to help change stigmas, to stop these people from like overhearing, at the very least, overhearing, oh, that guy's a crackhead. Like, that's not helpful to anybody. That's not helpful to anybody. Harm reduction eliminates shame and failure, and it empowers people to make healthier choices that work for them individually. A person who comes up to me and is using, I did have to tell somebody the other day, he was slumped in the chair, and I said, you need to wake up and you need to come back later. And he was like, I don't want, and I was like, I'm gonna see you at 4 o'clock. Like, come back, it's gonna be okay. And he came back, and I had to get on to him in front of everybody, but he came back, and he was doing okay, and he stayed awake, and I was like, all right, let's get through this. Like, I'm really proud of you, and like, that's harm reduction. I'm proud of you for showing up. You showed up, and you showed up not high. Thank you. We have a lot of work to do. And it's hard to even explain how much harm reduction means to me. It saved my life. It helped me get into this field. It helps me help other people. Be careful of your language, and love others until they love themselves. That is all.
Hannah, tell them about the girl the one that went to stay at the with the nuns.
Okay.
That you tell that's because it's such a beautiful story.
And I'm like, I'm not a public speaker, so I'm all over the place. I'm not Tammy.
You did really good stuff.
Thank you.
You're fine.
Okay, so I met a girl. She was homeless with a 2-month-old. He's now 3 months old. She was homeless with a 2-month-old. And unfortunately, we were talking about this at work today. Unfortunately, a big part of getting a person off the street is giving them rides places. That is like the number one thing. We can, not to go off on a tangent, but a person who lives in New Orleans especially, we have caseworkers, my colleagues, that buy bus tokens for people because we don't have a budget for bus tokens. There are people who can't start, you can get transportation, you know, and we use Start SAC team, by the way. And, but transit is really, really hard. So basically what I told her was like, look, we're gonna go place to place to place, get what you gotta get done. I'm gonna take you to get your ID. I'm gonna take you to get some groceries, went to a couple places in Slidell, got her diapers, got her wipes. There's a lot of wonderful community resources in Louisiana, in southern Louisiana. And so we went to all these places. We went to the food bank. My husband and I had an extra car that has been sitting in our driveway. And I framed this to her as like, look, we wanna give you this car, but I want you to know that this is not selfless. I need this car moved. Like, come get the car. I'm sick of looking at it. It's been sitting in my driveway for a year and a half. So I was like, look, I took her to get some clothes, and I was like, my husband wants to give you this car. And she was like, you're kidding me. Like, a car? I was like, yes, girl. But like, also, again, it's not selfless. I want my parking spot. So I just kept telling her, I want my parking spot. So she gets the car, I gotta fix it up. There's stuff going on with that. We end up going to, there's a nonprofit, I'm guessing, I would just call it a nonprofit in New Orleans. Unity, you know, yeah. Unity? Yeah. Okay, so there's Unity in New Orleans. So you go to Unity, you do this is if you're homeless. You go to Unity, you do the application process. They sign you up, you get a housing navigator, and they sign you up for either permanent supportive housing, rapid housing, which is 3, 6, 9, 12 months, or affordable housing. When you get to Unity, they'll then put you out to shelters. You can't just go to a shelter anymore and go like, I gotta come here. You have to go through Unity because there is such a huge amount of homeless people. And so we went to Unity, and the lady, we walk into the lobby and the lady goes, no, it's 5 years. There's nothing in the city. There's nothing here, y'all just go. She looks down at the baby and just rude. So my friend went to the back and she was talking to her, and she said at some point, she said, yes, ma'am. And the lady kind of changed her tune and was like, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna help you. There was one spot available at this, like safe haven shelter where women, it's a DV shelter, it's former drug users. It's run by nuns. So these two sisters used to do this out of their homes. They used to take in women and keep them there with their children and take care of them. So they end up buying this hotel. It's called Hotel Hope. It's in New Orleans. And they took her in. They have refurnished hotel rooms. They're beautiful. There's TVs, there are refrigerators. You can have food, which is just wild because you usually can't have food in a shelter. She gets into Hotel Hope, and when I tell you, God, because I was walking to my car after this woman just said 5-year wait list. I got to my car, sat down in my car, locked my door, and she called and said we got one spot open in this entire city. So she got into Hotel Hope. So I drop her off over there. She now has a car, she has shelter, she has diapers, she has all the needs that all the stuff she needs. She went to Odyssey House, the place that I work for, and I'll try to shorten this up. I'm going, but I'm trying to tell all the details because the details are wonderful. So my job, Odyssey House, has a 28-day rehab. So she had formerly gone there to this rehab and graduated. So she wanted to work at Odyssey House because she was like, I want to help people like you help people, like I'm in recovery and I want to be a part of this stuff too. So I was like, all right. So about a week ago, she calls me and says, I got approved 2 weeks into the shelter. I got approved for housing. She is getting an apartment. It makes me want to cry. In 2 weeks, she is going to have an apartment of her own. And oh, baby, I'm gonna cry. And then she applied at my job for a mental health tech position to be with the residents on the floor. And my boss came to me and he was like, you know, I don't know her, what's she like? And I said, she's absolutely wonderful. You will not regret it. She is wonderful. And she interviewed, and in the hallway, he walked up to me and said, I am not going to regret it. I really like her. We're pushing her through. So within a month, because of rides, and like just doing what you're supposed to be doing, you know, just helping another person, loving other people until they love themselves. She got housing, a job, a car, and then to make it even better, she got her glasses in the mail. So the nuns, she says the nuns were like, you got a job? And they were all praying over her and they were like all happy. And so she texted me and said, I got prescription glasses. And it's like that first step, that harm reductive step, you start going and you cannot be stopped. It happened to me, it happens to a lot of people that I see. You start going and suddenly you're like, I'm getting a pair of bifocals. And that's a normal day for me. And that's, you know, a month ago she was sleeping outside with a 2-month-old. So that is all. That is the story that Tammy loves. I'll keep y'all updated on her because she's killing it. She's killing it. She starts work in 2 weeks. And yeah, she brought me yogurt today to work. She pulled up and she goes, I brought you breakfast. And I was like, come on, girl.
I want to say this because Hannah is so humble
I'm a
and
talker. I'm so
so
sorry.
beautiful. You did such a beautiful
Thank
job.
you.
I love this girl so much.
Thank you.
She was the tech supervisor where I worked, and my incredible assistant. Like, I don't think that I was like, okay, I took half a breath. You got to take the other half a breath.
Yeah.
But she,
We were a dream team.
I left the job, and she finally got to the place where she had to leave the job. Well, 2 days after she left the job, the girl was staying at the center where this was, and they were not being harm reductive.
No.
And when the girl got out, Hannah has no job, and she went to pick up the girl from off of the street, drove the girl all over New Orleans, then drove the girl all over Tangipahoa Parish, then drove the girl all over St. Tammany Parish to make sure that that happened. But what happened is, if y'all remember, she came here that night, and she shared with us that night, and God blessed her. And then that day is when that girl got into that place. So just that short time, all of that stuff happened, and God was in all of it. He was in absolutely all of it. And nobody was saying, oh, you did this, or oh, you need to do that, or oh, you did this. And all the girl kept saying to Hannah was the same thing Hannah's humbly saying, and the same thing I said in the way that I said it. She just kept saying, why are you doing all of these things for me? Why are you doing this for me? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this for me? And now she's like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And she's just very appreciative for what she's doing. But if it wouldn't have taken that one person, I mean, that young lady was the lady by the well in the book of John. She had nothing and no one, and knew that no one would not want to talk to her. And Hannah didn't say anything, but just like Jesus said, she said, well, if you'd know me, you'd want to talk to me. And what Hannah did was show her all the things that she could do based on the resources she had. And that to me is just God's love. And that girl is doing well because of God's love. And I'm here to talk to you today because of God's love. And Hannah's here today because of God's love. And God put us together because of God's love. God gave us Deacon Louis because of God's love. You know, loving all of that, Hannah struggling with her relationship with God, trying to figure her way out just from the way she was raised and where she wants to go. And ever since she figured that out, all God keeps showing her is how he loves.
somebody the next day, I was telling my neighbor, I was like, she goes, "Where's the car at?" And I said, "Oh, we gave it to someone." I ended up telling her what happened, and the next following day, she took 2 ladies to the Social Security office to get their social. She said they didn't have a ride. And I was like, let's go.
Paying it
Let's
forward.
go. Let's start moving. Because people, and you, harm reduction, you help people learn how to accept help.
And you learn how to give just the part of you that you can. Harm reduction doesn't mean you let people pound through your boundaries. Harm reduction doesn't mean you're not gonna hurt the same exact way you're hurting when your loved ones are hurting. Harm reduction doesn't mean that you're gonna make them stop doing drugs. Harm reduction means that you're just gonna love them and try the best that you can, give them the resources to help them stay alive while he's doing his work. We are not saviors. He sent us one, but we are not saviors. We are just supposed to love people. Think about all of the things that Jesus did when he was walking the earth that reduced the harm in people's lives. You know, all of the saving graces that he gave, and giving us Paul and all of the saving graces that Paul gave us. You know, we're supposed to follow him in that way. And to me, when I feel like I'm following Jesus, I'm following a harm reductive way of life, you know, and not a judgmental way of life or an opinion way of life. And oh, I can have an opinion, I'm here to tell you, but I try to bite my tongue and tell them that opinion, look, God told me a long time ago that opinion is the lowest form of knowledge in a human. And it doesn't mean that your opinion doesn't matter. It just means that it matters less than most everything else. So when we get to a place, we have to ask ourselves, we don't want the people we love to be biased against, you know. Had a young lady today, she's homeless and she's in a homeless shelter and she's mentally ill. She doesn't know how to take care of herself. It doesn't have anything to do with drugs. She's gone pecan. She's been that way for a long time. But the girls at the homeless shelter won't talk to her because she smells awful. She was in my office and I thought I was gonna die. I really was just like, God, help me get through this. Because I talked to her for an hour and a half. I thought my boss was gonna fire me because we were supposed to talk 45 minutes and I had her in there. And she promised me she was gonna go home and take a bath. And then she called me later on about 3:30 today and told me that she took a shower and the girls said that she could ride with them later to the meeting, wherever they were going, I don't know. So it was just about somebody showing that you care about her, you know, that she wanted to take a shower instead of, we don't care about you, you stink, so you can't ride with us. Well, that generally didn't want her to take a shower. It made her feel bad about herself. Guess what? She already felt bad about herself. She didn't need any help in that department, you know? So this whole thing, when you think about, you know, when you put Neosport on your Bobo, you don't want it to get infected, right? When the doctor gives you surgery and he sews you up, he's closing it back up. All these things that we do to make things heal easier is all harm reduction is. So I don't know if we told y'all anything you don't want. Please, if you need my phone number, you can have my phone number. If you know anybody that needs help, get Hannah's phone number too. She's just as resourceful. She's more resourceful than me because I usually have people to do the resources. She is her. So if y'all know anyone or are struggling with someone or just need someone to talk to yourself, it's okay. It is harm reduction to go talk to a therapist when you're not really sure, or a deacon, when you're not really sure of what you're feeling all these things and you're really mad and your person comes around you and you're just mad at them. It's okay to have those feelings. It just might not be the best thing to share those feelings with the person that's on drugs and hurting, because then you're gonna fight and all the dynamics that you're normally used to doing are gonna do. So those things are hurtful. So just try and just love. And if you have trouble doing that, you can have Hannah and I's phone number. You can call Deacon Louie and he can get in touch with you, any of us, and we will help you in any way that we can and set you up with whatever that you can to help you. Thanks for hearing us.
I want to talk about the Narcan and
Oh yes, the test strips.
Tell them how to use.
Okay. Has any of y'all ever taken a pregnancy test?
No.
Imagine that. So If you have, if the drugs have, like if anyone has drugs, mostly, you know somebody who's doing drugs, just give them a couple of them. They know how to use them. But if there's something you want to test, if something's coming around and you want to test it, you just put a little bit on a spoon and you use warm water and you mix it together, even if it's marijuana, because it can be in it. They're now putting the dang fentanyl in the flavored things you put that the kids are smoking in those the vapes. Okay, because kids can't buy the vapes, so the people that make it, that sell the drugs the illegal way, they're putting the fentanyl in it. So even if your kid has a vape and you want to use one of these strips, or somebody's kid you know has one, you can put it on a spoon. You put as warm a water as you can on a spoon, and you run around. You open the strip, and it's just like on the end of a pregnancy test. It's a white strip, and you put it down, and you get it all the way wet, and you keep it in there for 10 minutes. 2 lines, and you can look it up on YouTube too. They have like 2-minute things, but 2 lines, like it means pregnant, that means it's negative. If it has 1 line at the top and it's really red line, that means it has fentanyl in it. So the fentanyl strips are a way to help someone stay alive if someone doesn't want to use them. They're there. If someone, is doing something and they want to help their kid, they found something, they want to know what it is, parents can test it and say, hey, look, I know what this is. You know what I mean? I know what this is. So I want you to stay alive. How can we help you do that? The Narcan, there's a video on YouTube that's 1 minute and 6 seconds long. It is a nasal. Don't test it before you do it, because there's just enough medication in it. You just pop the top of it off, and it works like a albuterol inhaler. You just go psh, and you just do it all at one time. It doesn't matter if they've not had any opiates. It does not matter. If they've had opiates, it will save their life. They mostly come back really mad because they know they come back and then they're not high anymore. You've blocked all their high, so they're mad as a pit viper. However, one thing I want you to know that they do not tell, there is a Good Samaritan law in Louisiana, okay? 2 things. If everybody is in trouble, one person gives the person Narcan, one person should stay with that person, okay? And there should be 2 Narcans if they're really jacked up, if you should have it again. Because 3 hours, Narcan wears off in 3 hours. Fentanyl has a long shelf life. It was made for back patches when you had back surgery before. So it goes into your skin. So it has to go into your skin to get into your bloodstream, to go into your brain, to go back all around. So it has a really long life. So at 3 hours, if the fentanyl hasn't come down enough, the person can still overdose after 3 hours. So you need to be there if you know. Cops, cops get you, they fuss, they say, oh, you're in trouble, and that's it. But there's a Good Samaritan law in Louisiana. You can look it up. And the Good Samaritan law says, stay with someone. If you're at a party and someone, overdoses, if one person stays with them, let the others go. But the one person that stays with them will get as much help as the person that's overdosed. Both of them will be in detox and treatment that day. They might fuss and do whatever, but once they get into court, if that person came, it is a law. It is written in law, signed by our governor. It's signed in law. It's a Good Samaritan law. You cannot get in trouble for staying with your friend, because so many people were just leaving and letting people die because they're scared to death they're going to go to jail, or their mom's going to find out, or whatever. But at that point in time, that person can say, you know what, I'm staying here with my friend. I'm not going to get in trouble. I'm not going to get a felony, and I'm going to get free help just like they are. I'm sticking around.
It also works for people, if somebody has fallen out and you don't know who they are, and it's suspected that they have an overdose, you can administer the Narcan, whether they have a heart attack or not. It's not going to hurt them.
Yes.
And there can't be any kind of repercussions as far as law goes.
Right.
You're trying to help. It's a good Samaritan.
Right. And Narcan, we all should have it. Y'all, how many times y'all been standing in a Walgreens and somebody's standing there doing this? That person's about to fall over and overdose. I take them and I walk them outside and I talk to them and I ask them, I'm like, okay, are you with me? And if they start looking like they're totally out of it, I call 911 and I take their license plate and I try to stay in the vicinity of where they are. They're not going to get very far, so that they cannot go out and kill someone else. You're right, whoever was talking about the Narcan, you cannot leave it in your car. We lived somewhere else besides Louisiana, okay, but living in Louisiana, everything is gonna melt. Your brain would melt if you stayed outside too long. So it will lose its shelf life if it gets too hot for too long. So I usually keep one in my purse, and I keep one in my office. I don't even know if somebody's gonna come and follow. Go ahead.
Also, if you don't want to get someone in trouble, but get them medical help, you can say, I Narcaned them. But don't say, I suspect an overdose. You just say, I Narcaned them. And then the person will wake up and go, I didn't do drugs, and then that's it. But if you're like, this person did drugs, then that's a whole situation. Also, I want to say, I met a guy today at a grocery store who said that he took Odyssey House Narcan training, and 2 days later was in a Walgreens on Canal and had to Narcan someone. And he had it in his pocket, a guy that, we have purses, we can put them in our purses, but he had it in his pocket because he was freaked out, just took the training, and had to Narcan this man.
And that's the world we live in, and that's where we're going, because it's just more and more and more. Like I told you, we are losing people every day. So it's not just our family members, it's everyone. And if you talk to your family members, like she was talking about the language changing and the services offered with START, the services offered in START in New Orleans, we have them there. And then Hannah, knowing that you can go to Unity and they're gonna try and place you in housing. If you show up and just say, help me, people will help you, but you have to be able to do that. And knowing those things, you never know when you're gonna be in church on a Sunday and someone's just gonna lay their shoulder down on you and start bawling, crying and saying, my son, my daughter, my husband, my brother, my uncle, whatever, and talk about this. And if we can just be loving through it, you know what I mean? If we can just be loving. Sometimes it's really hard to love a person in addiction. They're really tough.
If I could circle back, one thing to keep in mind, we do have the Narcan. You're welcome to take some with you, as well as the fentanyl strips.
Strips, yeah.
But to keep this in mind, if you do come upon someone who you believe has overdosed and you do administer Narcan, as soon as you administer Narcan, you call 911.
Yes.
And don't wait to see if they're coming in, then you call 911 immediately. Narcan first, then 911, and then let the paramedics that get there take over after that. But after 3 minutes, if they don't respond after 3 minutes, you Narcan them again. I think it comes as a 2-pack, doesn't it?
Yeah. Also, ideally on their sides, so they don't aspirate and choke and die.
Yes, you definitely want to. If they're laying this way, what you're doing is you're pulling them over. Like they're laying on their side like this, and they're laying like this, you're pulling them over. Because if you notice, when the paramedics come get them, one is lifting them up and they're pushing it on there, and they're getting them on the stretcher. Because what happens is they're going to breathe in, and everything that's in their chest or whatever is going to aspirate, because they're coming, and then breathing in, they'll choke, and then you're having to do CPR, and you don't want to do that, because if we don't do CPR, we'll get in trouble, So I know it seems crazy, but I mean, you just never know who you're going to serve. I was talking to somebody the other day. I was on the other side of the pond, and I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were saying that there was this little old lady. They took her off of. She was at the Catholic church. I don't know, right there in Tulane, that really pretty Catholic church by the hospital. It was beautiful. Yes. And so she was in there, and she was going to Canal to the methadone clinic, because the amount of pain pills she needed to take in order for her pain to get right was enough to kill her. This woman was 80 pounds soaking wet. So they have her going to the methadone clinic. Well, she thought she had finally gotten to a place where she thought, and she didn't know, she's old, so she thought, if I don't take the Narcan, I missed it one day, so I'm good, I'm gonna take 2 tomorrow. She didn't know. So she took her 2 and let the Uber come pick her up, and she's at morning mass, okay? Was on, I don't know what day it was on, but she's at morning mass, and she's nodding out like this, and somebody gave her Narcan. Now, They brought her back to life, and she had no idea that she overdosed. She had no idea that you couldn't take 2 methadones in a day, that she couldn't do that. She's like, but I didn't take my medicine yesterday, and I needed to take 2 today. Now, methadone is a great pain reliever for someone who is in constant chronic pain. And once your body gets enough methadone, that you have enough methadone, you're gonna have methadone, and you're not going to need any more methadone. You're never gonna need more of it, and it's not gonna ever make it where it's all about in your blood type. So you're not gonna need from this much methadone to this much methadone. You're gonna take the same amount. People have taken the same amount. It's about how much you weigh, what's in your blood and all that, and they figure all that out, and then you don't have pain. And for people that are older and been on pain medicine forever, and they have cancer, they have all this stuff, they have this osteo stuff, they can barely move, they're giving them methadone now. They're not giving the people that are doing the drugs methadone as much anymore, because you can use methadone to get high. So, but that woman did not know. Now, had she not known, and that person, that guy not had, Narcan in his purse, he didn't understand why this little old lady was, but he said everything looks like she's overdosing, and I did explain this, the gene site thing. I don't know if y'all know, have y'all ever heard of gene site? Gene site is, have you ever gone to go to the doctor, and the doctor tells you you have anxiety, or you have depression, or you have bipolar, or you have something, and they want to play eeny, meeny, miny, pill. And then this pill is you're gonna feel terrible, more terrible for 3 weeks, and then it's gonna make you feel better. And then you get there and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just not gonna make it. And then you get to the 4th or 5th week and you're not feeling better. Okay, well, you can't just stop taking it. Now we gotta wean you off of this pill that makes you feel terrible. And then we'll play eeny, meeny, miny, mo again. We'll put you on another one, and we'll go through that. I mean, sometimes people go through 4 or 5 medications before they know what pill to take. Well, the way we work is, if you come and you get diagnosed by a licensed therapist, and you work with the behavioral health specialist, we set you up with primary care. They take a vial of blood, they send it off, and your paper comes back with red, yellow, green. The red medicine, never take that. Your blood type, the way your blood works and the chemistry of your body, not for you. The yellow one would work, but it would give you the higher amount of side effects. Sometimes people choose different because the green ones might be more expensive or something, but the green ones in these doses is gonna be what's gonna work for you as a dream, as far as what you have. Your body type says this. So if you're ever wondering, when you take these kids and they go, oh, this kid needs medicine, he needs to get on this medicine, we'll say, okay, well, that's cool, but why don't we see what medicine he really needs to be on, instead of not just put him on whatever medicine and hope for the best, and he walks around just not getting out of his seat, and so everyone's happy. So even older people, yeah.
Is that for psychotropic drugs solely? I'm just wondering.
No, it works for any type of medication, but they'll test you for what your disorder is. Like, say they'll test you for what your problems are. If you have hypertension, or you have something going on with a bone disorder or something, whatever you have, it works to find out the properties in the medication, not necessarily the medication, but the properties in the medication. How will they work in your gene type? And that's why they call it gene site, because it's genetically what's gonna work for you. And I think this is amazing, because I don't know how many times I have taken a pill that's made me feel awful. It's like, oh my God, I'd rather just feel crazy. I'm good, I don't want that, it feels terrible. And finding out what was wrong with me, and finding out exactly what needed to work, even though I wasn't as comfortable with all of what it was, finding out what worked for me. I didn't have to do gene site. I had some very expensive testing that I ended up had to pay out of pocket. This prevents that.
Is that covered by most insurances?
It is covered by Blue Cross and Blue Shield, by Medicare, and by Medicaid. Other ones you gotta call and fight with them. Okay, but it's covered. It's covered by Medicaid. Medicaid would much rather find out what pill that works than to buy all of these pills that don't work, and then you're not gonna have it, and you have all these hundreds of dollars worth of pills when they can take one test that literally costs like $200. You're gonna find out then they can take the generic of it, and they can give you this pill, and then guess what? You're gonna stop going to the doctor to stop feeling bad, because you're gonna feel better. which is harm reduction for the pocketbook of the insurance company. You know what I mean? They would much rather, that's why medically assisted treatment works. That's why the insurance likes it. If they give you Suboxone, Sublocade, what's the one that, Bixlotti? Bixlotti, I don't know if you know anything about it, but Sublocade hurts very, very much. It's very, very thick and it hurts. But it has an opiate blocker and it is the best medication for opiate addiction. Well, they came out with something else. Now, we do it if you want the Sublocade, but Leah is now giving a lidocaine shot so that the Sublocade doesn't hurt you so bad, because it does hurt. But now another addiction doctor came up with Bixlotti, Bixlade. It's called Bixlotti. It is the Sublocade in about a third of the thickness. And it's going in right away without the lidocaine, works the same way. And literally, the beautiful thing about this is if people really want to get off of it, it's scary because you don't feel like you ever did drugs after you get the right amount going on. You don't feel like you did drugs. The problem comes in was you left with all the reasons why you did the drugs.
Behaviors.
You know, you're left with all the madness, all the rage, all the anger, all the behaviors, all the reasons, all the people you don't like, all the people who you're the victim of. So you got to be ready that if you're going to take something and it's going to be in you and you can't, okay, well, I'm not taking that tomorrow. I'm ready to go back to my thing. You're going to be that way. For it, it makes you not want to use, and it makes it, even if you did use, it just blocks it right out of your system. You're going to pee it right out. Nothing's going to happen. You wasted it. It's got an opiate blocker in it. It will not allow you to get high. The Suboxone, you can still get high. The Sublocade, you cannot. Drug court lets you use the Sublocade. They don't let you use the Suboxone. So we're working together to try to make it work. But this is great for kids. This is great for old people. If you got an old person and they have some dementia going on and they have some other stuff going on, but they have bipolar or they have depression and the medicine starts really jacking with them, then they can do this and they can figure out what works for them, and then you can put them on what works for them. So when they're having their other episodes, they're not so bad, because the dementia episodes cause the bipolar mania or the depression to just plummet or skyrocket because they're so sad. You know, they don't like the way they feel, and we don't know enough about dementia, why it does the things that it does. But this helps people be able to have the best results. You know, if you know anybody who has hepatitis C, before you used to have to take interferon. It was the most terrible thing in the world. Now you can take a pill, it feels terrible, and then a week later you take another pill, and then you don't have hep C anymore. It's gone. We can treat hepatitis B in a way that you can be healthy. We can treat HIV. 37% is the rise in HIV from New Orleans to Houston. 37%, because all these people hooking up. You know, it's the new thing. Let's not get married. Let's do all of this thing. And now God is going to come and punish some kind of way. There's going to be consequences for us living outside of biblical ways. You can look at it how you want. I really don't think that God says, okay, I'm going to make everybody sick. But I just think that he lets things happen in ways that says, that is not how I want you guys to live. You know, and harm reduction, teaching our children about the Lord. Good harm reduction. Teach our kids, teach them when they're like this. You know, my grandma used to say, beat them and give them some Jesus. I don't mean that, but we have to discipline our kids, and we have to teach them about the Lord. That's harm reduction. That way they come up and even if they stray a little bit, they know a little bit. They have something but a lot of these kids that I saw a 5-year-old today that was suicidal. She said, well, that's what my mama does. When my mama gets mad, my mama says that, and she goes and she gets a knife and she does this. And I'm like, so she's not really suicidal. She's frustrated, and that's what she sees her mom do. She's frustrated. And all of this is about the society we live in that has less God a lot of times and more of the world. And if we live in more God and less of the world, things get so much more simple. I'm glad you guys listened to me. Now, y'all have any questions?
I have a question for Hannah.
Hannah?
Yeah.
When you talked about you were in the facility and you were still using the 30 days, I think you said. I'm just curious, so did you slowly, gradually loved and nurtured, and it was a slow process, or all of a sudden did it just click?
It was drugs and then it was alcohol. So it clicked.
Oh,
It clicked all right.
Okay.
I called myself a chronic flusher. So I would buy drugs, I would do them, I would get really sad, and then I would flush them. And then I'd go, oh no, what have I done? I'd go get more drugs, flush them, over and over and over and over again. Until one day, I was like, I'm not going to get more. I called my sponsor at the time, and I said, I want to go to detox. And she goes, I'm with my family at dinner. I'll be there in 7 minutes. And dropped the dinner and came and picked me up and took me to detox. So it was that, and then I went into harm reduction. I went from using drugs to then just using alcohol, like she was saying, tapering down. I used just alcohol until I tapered myself off of alcohol. And then stopped smoking cigarettes, and that was maybe the hardest. I wanted to say one more thing. If we can do anything, I recognized something this morning. Every morning I walk into the shelter and I'm like, hi, good morning, how are you? And they're like, hi, why are you saying hi to me? I was on the freeway today, I was getting off the freeway, and this guy was standing outside and it said he wants something on a sign. And I said, hey, I don't have anything for you, but I just wanted to say good morning. And he was like, oh, good morning, how you doing? I was like, good. He says, blessed. They always say blessed every day. I'm writing, how do you feel today? Blessed, blessed, over and over and over again. If I could say one thing, homeless people are stigmatized to be violent, to be unpredictable, to be, I don't know, we don't want to look at them. Maybe we feel guilty, but we don't look at them. And imagine how that would feel walking around and nobody saying hi to you. So I think the first thing that we can do, the first step we can take, maybe you can't give somebody a ride to a shelter, you can't find somebody, you don't have the resources. Look at people who are unhoused and say good morning to them. You know, just a little thing to give somebody like, oh, I'm a human, and somebody's treating me like a human being. That's all I want to say. That is something today.
We all want to be seen, and we all want to be heard. And I want to say something else too, because I don't think a lot of people know this. The Vivitrol shot is not just for opiates. If you know anyone who has a drinking problem and cannot get off of the alcohol, you have to detox off of the alcohol, and then they give you the Vivitrol shot, and it works the same exact way as the pills. You do not want to drink. You just don't want to drink.
How long does the shot
cravings,
last?
They're gone.
cravings gone.
Gone. 30 days. And then you go back and get another shot. You go back and get another shot, you go back and get another shot, every 30 days, and it's just a 10-minute thing. You go in, behavioral health, you have an appointment, you go in, the nurse gives you a shot and you leave. That's it. You don't have to take any more medicine. If it's just an alcohol thing, and a lot of people don't know that. They accidentally found out that Vivitrol works as, it was the first opiate blocker shot. It was the first one. The properties in it, however, work better with alcohol than they do with the Sublocade shots. Work better for the opiate because it has that blocker, and the Vivitrol doesn't. But I promise you, I know a man that drank for 61 years. He's doing a Vivitrol shot. He don't even want alcohol anymore. He's riding his bike on a trailhead. He's jogging. He's doing whatever. He man's in his 70s. And he's like getting healthy. He's like thinking he's Mr. Fly Guy now. Like he hadn't not wanted to not drink in forever, and now he's not wanting to drink. And he went through all the parts when he was drinking. His wife died, and he lost 2 of his kids and all this stuff. His other kids live far away, but he's going to Our Lady to Lake. He's going to church. He does whatever you do at the church to help, and he's on his bike, and he's happy as a pig in poop, and he just goes and gets his little shot. He comes in, he's a little happy, and gets his little shot and goes back out there, and he's living his life. Like, it's the first time a man's lived his life forever, and he didn't have to do the meetings and all that kind of stuff. Like, he did the work, he just couldn't stop drinking. But he tried to, he was never mean. He just was never that kind of person. But his body would never let him stop. He would stop for a while, he'd go back. Got the Vivitrol shot, and it does it. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing for someone who really can't stop drinking and they really want to, and their life pretty much is kind of cool, and they have loving support around them. I mean, it's good for everybody. But that person that lives in that shame show, like, I can't stop. I've tried everything and I can't. Bloop, it's gone.
Now, if they drank on it, just happened to drink on it.
You
is it
won't. You don't want
dangerous?
to. You just won't want to. You just won't want to.
Does it make you sick?
No.
Well, that's what I thought it made you say.
You just won't want to. You'll just take this sip and you just won't want to. Have you ever ate? This is what I've heard it explained in my alcohol group. This is how I've heard it explained. They're like, have you ever gotten sick off of anything when you had the flu? Have you ever gotten sick off of anything, like you got the flu, you don't know what it is, and you throw up? For me, it was tuna fish. I love it now, but child, I didn't eat tuna fish for 20 years. If I smelled it, I was like, are you drinking and you got sick off of something, and you just, that thing you got sick off, you're never gonna eat again, or that smell you don't like? That's what they say alcohol feels like after you've had the Vivitrol shot. You might think, I'm so mad, I'm gonna pour me some scotch, and you pour it in, and you go, and they go, They said that they'd leave it sit there, and they never let a drink sit there, and before in their life, they didn't understand why people did that. If you're a real alcoholic, they say you don't leave alcohol in a glass. There's no way, it's not happening. And they said that they go to people's houses with alcohol in their house, and they don't have the taste for it anymore. But there's ones that have told me that they've tapered off, and then it goes back up. So I guess after you keep on it for a while, it may happen, but it's just so good with the cravings. And I've not really heard a lot of side effects, like, oh, this side effect is terrible, oh, this side effect is terrible. Most of the people are so excited that they don't want to drink. They could never imagine in their lives not wanting to drink. They thought something was inherently wrong with them because they couldn't stop drinking, and now they're not drinking. And I swear, I wish I could video. I can't say his name, but I wish I could video him and just show him to you. This man is happy as can be. He's got his little shorts on and his little thing, we can see the reflectors, and he's got his little bands on and his little sweat bands, and he is just adorable.
So is he working a recovery program?
No.
Or he's not.
No, you don't work no recovery program. He goes to church. He's involved in a church in downtown Mandeville.
Had he been to recovery programs earlier?
No, but he was a functional alcoholic. Like, he wasn't a mean alcoholic. His kids loved him. Him and his wife never had, that meant much of a problem. I mean, he lives by himself, so maybe he doesn't, because he doesn't bother nobody because he lives by himself, I live better by myself too. I don't play well with others. So maybe it's just that. But you just always see him, he always has a smile on his face. He's never miserable. He's never sad. Never sad or anything. But there's a lot of older folks that don't know that Vivitrol will help you in drinking, and they just want to be able to stop the drinking. And then if you're still drinking, it's hard to work on your stuff the way you want to, because you end up feeling a lot of shame. But like Hannah was talking about, if you can just stop it for a little while. But for someone that's 70-something years old, that's tried for 50 years to stop drinking and has never been able to stay stopped, and he's been stopped now for 5 years, not had a drink. He doesn't want to get off the shot.
Primary care doctors are familiar with that?
No, your primary care doctor is not going to be familiar with it. You have to have a behavioral health. It has to be a psychiatric nurse practitioner with behavioral health, and they want you to either go to the group once a week, or they want you to go to counseling. You don't have to go to AA or nothing like that, but until we know how it's working with you, and that you're healthy and that you're okay, and all your vitals are good and all that kind of stuff, and we good, but once they know you're good, he just comes and gets a shot. Comes in once a month for 10 minutes, but at first, when you're drinking pretty heavily, but they're starting now that when you go to the treatment center, they give you they detox you. And once the alcohol gets out of you, they give you the Vivitrol shot. So by the time you get out of the treatment center now, instead of running back to the bar as soon as you get out, you just get your second shot. And then you have some time to do that. But a lot of times, the older folks don't really want to go to the treatment centers because they're full of 18 to 25-year-old opiate users, and they're just like, they feel like they're in the twilight zone. They're like, wait a minute, drinking's better than this. You know what I mean? So the Vivitrol shot is a really good program for someone who just doesn't want to drink anymore, has not been able to stop, but doesn't really want to do anything. And you can come and go to, I mean, how many of y'all wish you had an objective person to go sit and talk to for an hour a week just to hear you? How terrible is that? You know, when I let them come sit in there, if they don't want therapy, I just let them say whatever they want, or we do a YouTube video and we meditate or whatever, or we just shoot through, you know, just shooting the bull with somebody sometime helps you feel better than, you know, oh my God, I'm gonna talk to her, she's gonna aggravate me, you know, oh my God, that's mama, oh my God, that's your son, or whatever, you know. It's just somebody for you with the door closed and I've got the rain going, and, you know, and just sitting there for a minute.
So traditional treatment you go into, because you sounded earlier, you mentioned like you were opposed to it.
I'm not opposed to it.
But you didn't think it worked. You didn't think it worked.
With by itself, people go in and you think, I'm going to the doctor. I have cancer. I'm going to the doctor. When they let me go home, I'm well. That's what's in your mind. It's the perspective and the perception that is making it that way. Because when you go into these treatment centers, all you're really doing is you're in a place where you can't get loaded anymore. You go to some groups, you eat, you smoke a lot of cigarettes, because don't take the cigarettes away.
You get a little education on it.
You get a little education. You get somebody like Deacon Louis to come sit and talk to you and tell you about God, or to say, hey, God loves you, or something like that. For 30 days, you're away from it. You can say, I'm gonna make a better decision. I think maybe I'll go to transitional living or something. Or you're off of drugs for a week long enough to where maybe because if you're out there, people still think I still gotta go get drugs. I can't get that shot. I'm not gonna be able to get high, and they're doing this. But if you're in there, then 30 days and you start doing the medically assisted treatment just helps with the cravings. The cravings for alcohol and opiates is what's killing people and keeping people going back to it.
It sounds like though this philosophy that you presented tonight is more of, there's no expectation you're gonna stop. We're gonna love you where you're at. And this loving you then makes the person love themselves and eventually then want to get healthier. So it's a very different philosophy as opposed to coming in when you're coming off of everything. You're not gonna use in our facility, right? And this is different. You kept going, or we're in this 30 days, while still engaging in the maladaptive behavior, the addiction. But then eventually you have found that as people are loved where they're at, that gradually they make better choices for themselves and get off of the substance.
Well, think about when you go to AA and NA. Think about when you go to AA and NA. You know, you might have your family member with you forever, and you keep going to the treatment centers and you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That's insanity. And then you just have to drop your hands. You have to say, my boundary is we're not going to do this anymore. This is my boundary. We're not going to do it anymore. I'm cutting you off. We're not getting any more money. You can't live in our house, whatever, right? Well, immediately that person feels rejected and they're angry and they go out there and they use or they do whatever. But if it's their time, they're going to find somebody that's going to bring them into AA or bring them somewhere, and all of a sudden, you know, down the road, you see this person and they happy and they go into meetings. You know, people that go to AA meetings and NA meetings, they drive cars, they live in houses, their clothes are clean, they getting it together because they met people that are like them, that did something, that loved them in that way.
I think it goes back, there's an overlap that they feel accepted and loved.
Yeah.
Through the AA group. A lot of times when I talk to somebody, you know, when they talk about they're trying to discover their higher power, and they say, it's my group. Well, what does our higher power do? He loves us.
Yes.
So they just don't understand his God yet. So they associate their group as their power that lets them continue in their recovery, in their new way of life or whatever. So to leave that group would be leaving my, leaving my
The only
peace,
people
my
that love me,
sanity.
the two things that I love about it is they say, keep coming back. And they let you come back even if you're trifling. Look, when I started coming, they told me to keep coming back. Most of the people be closing up the windows, turning off the lights and go, shh, she's coming up the driveway, be quiet. Maybe she'll leave. And when those people started hugging me and telling me to keep coming back, I'm like, please stop hugging me. Please stop telling me to keep coming back. Get away. You know, I didn't know what to do with all that. You know, I'm still like that. I'm like, woo. It's
Not
just-
everybody fits in a pigeonhole.
It's
you know?
camaraderie. Just like when y'all come in here, y'all find your faith. So you find people go sit in mass because I feel at peace. When I go sit at mass, when I go sit in mass, I have recently started doing that, and it's the closest I felt to my grandmother since 2016, because that's what I used to do with my grandma, and I can just feel her. And I know that it's him letting me feel that feeling that feels like her. It's not her. She's busy up there probably telling God what to do or something. But, you know, it's just him letting me feel what it feels like to feel her, because I'm in his house to love him just like we do our children, you know.
I want to add to what you were saying. Harm reduction can be, AA and NA do not believe in harm reduction. They
Yes.
think it's a joke.
They
They're
do.
like, absolutely not. This is what works, this is what works.
So they have an all or none kind of.
They have an all or none. They are
Yeah,
complete
the book is
abstinence.
their Bible, you know.
AA is the program of abstinence, so they don't believe in it. However, I am involved in AA, NA, harm reduction, recovery dharma, all these different things, because I find harm reduction within them, because that's my philosophy, like you said. So I find when I show up to AA, like, okay, I'm showing up for myself, so that feels a little bit better to me that I'm doing this. But I don't think that this is definitely not an all, it's not don't go to AA, don't go to recovery, or don't go into rehab, but instead try everything and gain these different experiences to then build up your self-esteem and your confidence. And
It's changing your language and using the resources. Like she said when she was talking, if we change the language not to all or nothing, and we use the resources that we have. Look, Brene Brown talks about it. If you're in the arena, you're gonna get your butt kicked. But if you're in the arena, you're doing something for your life. Use your resources, use everything you have. Are you gonna fall on your face? Yes. Anything you start in life that you don't know how to do well, you're gonna fall flat on your face. But it's when you get up and you pull your bootstraps up, you run on over there and you do something different. That's all it is. It's just, we think we're like, there's no black and white. In addiction, nobody likes gray area. Gray area is the middle. It's the white and the black mixed together. You know what I mean?